Hi everyone, Chris here. So I've got with me the Black Shark 3 Pro that I have been using for a while now, and it's the larger version to the Black Shark 3 that I just reviewed in the channel. Now this one, what is different is it has a 2K screen, a larger screen. It is 7.1 inches. It's still 90 Hertz, and we also have a larger battery, which is 5,000 milliamp hours, and hardware mechanical triggers. So is the Pro version a better model? Well, that's what I'm here to find out in this in-depth review. By the way, this unit was provided, it's a loan unit from Trading Shenzhen.
So let's take a look first at what we get within the box right here. So we've got a Type-C to USB cable, a 65-watt charger. So this is the same as the Black Shark 3, the non-Pro version. Now, it will charge this phone in 55 minutes in my testing. More on that later on in this particular in-depth review. We've got a TPU case here. Now, this does have cutouts for our triggers and all the buttons. And it is of very good quality here. It's great to see this included in the case. There's a SIM tray tool as well, and a quick start guide and other material, but that's all in Chinese. Oh, and we do get this right here, some Black Shark stickers. So this is a large phone as expected, 7.1 inches. Now that is probably going to be ideal for people who are coming from maybe the Mi Max series or say the Mate 20X. That's the larger phones, of course, there. But it is really, really quite heavy. 260 grams versus the 223 we have with the smaller Black Shark 3. But this is a 6.7-inch screen, of course, versus that 7.1. So the build of it, very nice. Metal frame around the outside. We have a metal volume up and down buttons here on the left-hand side. Above it is the SIM tray tool, takes 2 nanosims. Down the bottom, we have sadly just a Type-C USB 2 spec. Okay, now this does not support video out, which to me is a big error. With a gaming phone, it should have video out, so you can play it like a console, plug it into a TV then. And then on the right-hand side, we've got our power button. Now this power button to me is in the wrong location, and I'll show you why. Because when you first pick up the phone, you go to grab it, and you go to place your thumb there. And where is the button? The button's a good 2 centimeters above that, and that is really quite awkward. I just think the design team didn't really think this one through. Now, maybe the battery's in the way, maybe there's the PCB in the way, maybe it's because of the trigger buttons there as well, why they couldn't do this. But to me, it's just kind of slightly annoying. Now, those triggers on the top there, they're in when you're not using them, when you're not in the gamer mode. And I do find them to be really quite cool. When you enable them, they pop out. There's like a little bit of a noise there too with the motors that pop them up. And then you got physical click-in buttons, hardware buttons, not those horrible capacitive touch. I mean, capacitive touch is good, but hardware, of course, just so much better there. So my complaint really with the build, it's just that power button location. And then right up the top, yes, 3.5mm headphone jack, very good quality out of this one, no complaints there. And when we have a look at the front of the screen, so it does have, yes, bezels top and bottom, so 20 megapixel front-facing camera, but we do have dual loudspeakers, front-firing ones. Now looking at the back here, so this is very similar to the Black Shark 3 Pro that I reviewed. By the way, check out the review of this one in the channel. It just is in a different color, and we have a blue accent right here. So the silver they've gone with is very, very prone to fingerprints, okay? So you're going to pick up a lot with this. And then the metal along the back here, metal strip, Gorilla Glass 5, the magnetic pogo port charging connector. So the cable is not included in the box. It's an extra that we have to pay extra for, of course. And then our cameras on the back here. So this glass is a little bit excessively large. I think the triangular form of it, but it does have a 16 megapixel Samsung GW1 sensor in there, 13 megapixel ultra wide, and a 5 megapixel camera for our depth information for portrait shots. Overall, the build quality, I really do like it. I think it is solid. There's absolutely no sharp edges, flaws, or anything, and fitting of the price tag. Now, the key feature of this phone is its display. So 7.1 inches, it's a very nice display. This is 2K plus, so the resolution is 1440 by 3120. It is a Super AMOLED panel, and it has a maximum brightness of, with my measurements here, around 800 nits of brightness, which is very good. Making it out in direct sunlight is, I would say, average. It's not exactly the best, but it's definitely not the worst I've seen. And you can still send a text message, make out what you are typing at least. And that's the main thing there with that. Now, touch sensitivity, very, very good with this particular panel. I'm using full screen gestures. No problems with it at all. And we're looking at real world images. You can see that they do look very good. No issues with blacks. So blacks, I'm not seeing a funny green tint. I'm not seeing any uneven low brightness blacks either with this panel, which is good. It has a refresh rate of 90 Hz or 60 Hz. You can select it through the settings, which I will show you shortly, but I just wanted to point out that the gamma is almost spot on. It is about 2.3 here, closer towards 2.2, which is good. Now with the display, we do have a few options here. So we've got the cinema mode, which I find to be way too oversaturated. It's just over the top colors, punchiness, natural mode, or true view mode here. And you can adjust the coolness, warmness of the display to what you prefer there. So that's all pretty straightforward. Now, edge detection, I find to be good. And with this full screen gestures, it is running really well. Eye care mode as well as there. Refresh rates out of the box, it's going to be on 60, but I keep it on 90 for this review. And same goes with the resolution. So it will be on their intelligent resolution, which will be switching between 1080p and 2K. But I'm going to force it onto 2K again for the entirety of this particular review here. And we do have hardware DC dimming, so I'm going to keep this on because it stops any flicker when I'm recording with my camera. And at low brightnesses, you should not see any flicker with the screen. It is a high quality panel. It just tends to be, I think, out of the box, just a little bit over the top with the colors and saturation. I wanted to put this in here as well because I know a lot of people are going to go, hey Chris, I want a comparison in depth between the Black Shark 3 and the Black Shark 3 Pro. It's not worth it, okay? It's not worth me going to that effort, all that effort for really minor differences. So this one, the Black Shark 3 Pro, slightly louder speakers. The cameras are exactly the same. Thermal's pretty much exactly the same too. Performance, the same. Battery life, better on the Black Shark 3. Screen, okay, yeah, slightly sharper, 2K resolution you get on this one, the Black Shark 3 Pro. Is it actually worth the extras? Not really. Hardware gaming triggers, yeah. Okay, the hardware gaming triggers, if you play a lot of, for example, PUBG or Call of Duty, yeah, it's nice to have, but I don't think it's actually worth the extra. I would go with this one here, the Black Shark 3. So this, what you're looking at, is the off-screen display, which is the always-on display. Now this will shift around. You can customize it. You can change it if you want. It will show you notifications too. So it shifts around to stop any screen burn, but maybe, you know, if you come back and look at this in 3 years' time, it could actually cause a bit, especially where the fingerprint reader has been an AMOLED panel. Now this also does move a few pixels out, so it's not always going to be in the exact same position. So I'll show you the unlocking speeds. I have found them to be very average, a little on the slow side compared to other phones that I have reviewed, like the X50 Pro 5G or the X2 Pro or the Huawei P30 Pro. They have super fast in-screen fingerprint readers. This one just lags behind it a little bit. Now it runs Joy UI 11. Joy UI 11 is MIUI 11 basically from Xiaomi, but just tweaked for Black Shark. Now because I've got the 12 gigabytes of RAM, I've forced also 90 Hertz and I have forced 2K. This thing is just very, very smooth and fast. And my typical moan, the animations, do they have any frame dips? No, they don't seem to have any lags there. I think the team really are doing a much better job with this phone. Well, the Black Shark guys, the Joy UI, I think they're doing a better job than MIUI in terms of optimization. They've just got it down a little bit. Now, RAM management is a little aggressive. Now, full screen gestures, they're working good. And I've noticed that it will kill things off quite quickly. What about YouTube? That's been sitting there now for 30 minutes. No, of course not. Even with 12 gigabytes of RAM, it wants to kill it off to save us battery life. I think that is just wrong. It's just too aggressive there. So I'll go back into gallery because I want to run through some things here. So when you first get it, this being the Chinese ROM version, there's a lot of bloatware on here. Okay, you're going to have all these Chinese apps. Google Play Store, so just run the Google installer version 3. Google it. Move the APK file onto your phone and go through and get it to install Google Framework, Google Services, and the Play Store and everything else. So we do have on first boot 231 gigabytes free on the 256 gigabyte version. And it has a security patch level of, last year. I don't know why, but this is bad. November 2019. Okay, and that's just the spec of the phone. That I am on the latest firmware update here as well. You can see Joy UI. Yes, there's some Chinese in there, being the Chinese ROM. So camera 2 API support level 3, very good. That's what we want. And I expected this being a Chinese phone, so widevine level cert level 3. Okay, so standard definition for Netflix, Amazon Prime Video. Yeah, not great. And what about the wireless speed? So very good. No problems here. It's not the fastest I've seen, especially when you've only got like 1 or 2 bars of signal strength on 5 gigahertz wireless, by the way, here. I've noticed that the Redmi K30 Pro was much quicker. That can get about 360 megabits per second. In fact, the fastest I have ever seen with low signal strength speeds. And here we have GPS, okay, so very good. Typical Qualcomm, we cannot get better than 3 meters with them due to some law restriction. If you've got a MediaTek chip, then you can get actually 1 meter of accuracy. So here we have Antutu, so it is good, very good. This is a great score as expected. And what about battery life? So first I forced the 2K resolution and then 90 hertz. So 8 hours and 2 minutes. Ouch, this is not good. This is a lot worse than the Black Shark 3 Pro. This is about 20% worse or so, 30% because of that screen resolution. Larger screen has more, of course, pixels to illuminate, light up, larger area, more backlight, so it's going to burn through the battery faster. Even at 60 hertz and the just 1080p resolution, it's still kind of poor, isn't it? 11 hours and 52 minutes. Not really the greatest there. Now, battery charging time. So it will go from 2% to 59% in just 21 minutes. And then in 30 minutes, you get 76% battery life from 2%. That is really quick for a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Very, very good. And fully charged, you can see this here, 55 minutes is the time it takes to fully charge it. The Black Shark 3 will take about 41 or 42 minutes to fully charge. Onto audio now. So they do sound very similar to the loudspeakers, but to me, the Black Shark 3 Pro is a fraction louder. Now, 3.5mm output on both of them is excellent, and it's exactly the same on the Black Shark 3 Pro here. Voice quality for calls, the same. Very good, no problem. So let's have a listen now to the dual front-facing loudspeakers on these. Onto gaming, but I'll first show you the game space. So that's their exclusive gaming hub. This is it right here. Now you can add games manually. A lot of them you will have to. And this you can see is where the games are listed. You've got various different settings up the top here. Now most of these are per game settings as well that you can actually trigger when in the game. So that's when you flick the switch at the top to get into this. I'll just go back here into Critical Ops. Now this game, it is very good because it's going to run at 90 frames per second. A lot of other games don't. It's all going to be down to the developers if they support the 90 frames per second, the game. So we've got settings in here for just basically not being interrupted. So no calls coming through. You can change that. Now the monitor is your FPS monitor, which will also give us temperatures as well. Clear the RAM. Master control is the interesting one here for the touch controls. So you can configure with a pressure sensitive touch. Voice control ones as well. A master trigger, so that's what I'm using right here. So the triggers have popped up at the top. And assistant overlay, so you can configure that wherever you want. So with this game here, Critical Ops, I want it for the trigger. So that's A on the left. And then for reload is B when touching that. And then if you go back, so swiping from the corners, you've got all these different settings here. So this is where you can configure the performance for each game. So this will save it per game, okay? So I've got this set to the absolute maximum, which is ludicrous mode to boost the performance. You've got display, refresh rate controls, touch there again, audio, network. Pretty straightforward here. And using those triggers, I'll show you what it is like, but you can see just tapping this and hardware click in. Nice feeling triggers for the reload as well there. Really, really good. So you can move around on the screen, shoot at targets. Just so much easier than having to use the on-screen touch buttons. Let's have a look at some gameplay here of Critical Ops. So this map here is just one of the ones up against the bots here. So using the triggers, very easy. Oops, going for a groin shot here. That's not very good. But it does make it a lot easier, just tapping the triggers. And you see reloading, just to tap the trigger there. So this does work really well. Now, I won't go into a lot of gameplay. Do check the Black Shark 3 if you want to see some more gameplay. But this one, running at 90 frames per second the whole time, supporting the higher refresh rate. Other games like PUBG, also really good. And those triggers, they do add quite a lot. But does it make it worth the extra going for this phone just because of the triggers, really? I don't think it is. And the battery life, as I pointed out, it's not as good as the Black Shark 3. Now onto our cameras. So I find that the cameras do need, I think, a lot of optimization, firmware updates. Hopefully when they do release them, can improve our camera quality. So this is the Pro mode that you can actually take a 256 megapixel photo, and I don't find it to be really that good. You're not gaining that much. I mean, you can crop a little bit more into the image, but the quality seems quite blurred. As you can see from the example I'm just showing you now, it also does take a long time with the processing here, as you can see, about 15 seconds. And then 64 megapixel mode. We've got night mode here, portrait, photo, and the ultra wide is there too that can be selected. So that's the standard lens. And video goes up to 4K 60 frames per second with this particular one. Now I'll just go quickly back to that Pro mode to show you that we also have settings there for the white balance, focus, shutter rate, and the exposure. Now the shutter rate goes up to 32 seconds and our ISO up to 3200 there. Now those samples. So we can shoot ultra wide video, but it doesn't have any electronic image stabilization. None of the video does, sadly, with this phone on the current firmware. The main 64 megapixel sensor can take 4K up to 60 frames per second. This sample right here is 30 frames per second. I don't find the focus to be bad at all. I think it's quite good, no problems with it, which is great. But yeah, the lack of electronic image stabilization means this is not really a phone for taking video with its current state. You're going to need to use a gimbal. Now the audio quality as well, the bitrate is a little bit low. I hope that Black Shark, well, Xiaomi, can improve the bitrate and add that electronic image stabilization. So yes, of course, front-facing camera does not have any electronic image stabilization, even though it does have quite a crop to it. Now, the 1080p quality we get here, that's maximum resolution you can record with the front-facing camera, is very good. Now, Xiaomi tends to actually be quite good at 1080p video. I mean, it does look a lot better than other manufacturers I have been testing out, for example, like Realme.
Now let me talk a little bit about the thermals too with gaming. I've noticed that if you're going to game for a solid hour or so, just like the smaller Black Shark 3, that it will get up to about 39 degrees according to their widget, the battery temperatures. Surface temps on this will be up to around 43. The longer you play, the hotter it will get. And this is normal. This is a powerful chipset that is in this, and it's passively cooled. There's no fan in this particular model here. Now there is an attachment fan you can get for this. You can also get a mechanical keyboard and the gaming pad and all that, but it's going to cost you extra. And unfortunately we don't have that magnetic charging cable either in the box. That is again another extra. So if they can optimize those cameras, just improve the performance of them, low light, selfies, video quality especially lacks any form of stabilization. So really the cameras on this one aren't great and overlooked in its current firmware state. So look for improvements with firmware updates coming through, hopefully from Black Shark. But to me, this is the one to go for. It's the Black Shark 3, not the 3 Pro, because the 3 Pro we lose a lot in terms of battery life because of the 2K screen. The mechanical pop-up triggers are really cool. They're great to use. They are very nice. Okay, gaming, if you play a lot of PUBG, you play a lot of Call of Duty, you're going to make full use of them, and it gives you an advantage over touch because it's just so much quicker and easier to use there, but it's just not worth it, I don't think. And then the bulkier size, I love my larger phones, but at 7.1 inches at 260 grams and then 11 millimeters This is just a little too bulky for a daily carry, I feel, for most people there. So thank you so much for watching this review. Please check out the review of the Black Shark 3. I go into a little bit more gaming there, a little bit more in the gaming settings, the Shark Space mode there too as well, if you're interested in seeing that one. I didn't want to repeat it all in this video to be a bit of a broken record, but I hope to see you back in my next review. Bye for now.